Con Part 1. Gray Dawn in Harlem. Before dawn could break, Harlem was already steeped in a somber gray. Rows of dark old brick buildings stood side by side like silent witnesses to years of hardship. On the street, a few worn-out cars rattled past puddles left by last night's rain. Winter wind slipped through every crack in the doors, carrying a biting chill that cut into the skin. After a nearly sleepless night, Amara Ellis woke in a small fourth-floor apartment of a faded painted tenement building. She lay still for a few seconds, listening to the hiss of the pipes and the steady thud of a neighbor's footsteps on the old wooden floor. Dim light filtered through the thin curtain, falling across the corner of the table where a charcoal-colored suit hung neatly, the outfit she had preserved for 2 years, reserved only for a special occasion like today. Amara stepped closer, her fingers brushing lightly over the fabric, as if touching a promise to herself. Today, she would change her life. The interview at Cross Kingsley, Manhattan's leading financial conglomerate, was the only chance she had ever had to break free from the cycle of poverty. A message notification chimed. Her mother, Patricia Ellis, had sent only a few short lines. "Daughter, today is your day. But remember, opportunity is never worth more than conscience. I believe in you." Amara smiled faintly. Her mother's words were like an anchor in the middle of the sea of anxiety swirling in her chest. She stood before the full-length mirror, taking in her reflection. A 25-year-old black woman, with brown eyes bright yet deep, lit with determination. Her curly hair was neatly tied up, revealing a delicate face that was not ostentatious, but radiating meticulous care. She slipped her feet into a pair of black high heels polished to a shine, carefully placed her resume, letters of recommendation, and a silver signing pen into her handbag. Outside, Manhattan was waiting. But she didn't know that the sky was preparing for a storm, and that storm would test her career path and the core of who she was. The number 2 subway train pulled out of 135th Street Station, hurtling through the dark tunnel. Amara sat close to the door, her hand gripping the strap of her bag tightly, eyes unfocused on the glass that reflected her face. She tried to push aside her anxiety, but the chill from the metal seat and the screech of steel wheels on the rails only made her heart beat faster. Outside the window, once covered with just a thin veil of clouds, the early morning sky had now darkened as if someone had spilled ink across it. Last night's weather forecast suddenly felt haunting. Fast-moving winter storm, with gusty winds and hail. A sharp, clipped voice yanked Amara out of her thoughts. On the seat across her sat a middle-aged man in a perfectly tailored Italian suit, a wine-colored silk tie, holding a phone to his ear. His tone was as cold as steel. "I made it clear, Emily, that being 2 minutes late is still late. Don't make excuses. Fix it no reasons." He hung up so abruptly that the sound echoed through the carriage. His icy gaze met Amara's unintentional glance when he lifted his head. In that split second, she could feel the irritation and the mind-your-own-business attitude radiating from his every movement. She quickly looked away, but his voice cut through the space, quiet yet piercing. "Is there a problem?" "No, sorry, I didn't mean to stare," Amara replied softly, trying to keep her composure. The man's lips curled into a half-smile before he returned to his phone. When he stood to leave at Times Square Station, the gold pin on his lapel caught the carriage's light, the letters C and K intertwined. Amara froze for a moment. Cross Kingsley. The same logo was used for the company she was about to interview for. But she told herself quickly, "No, don't let your imagination run off track." The chime for the next stop sounded, and the scent of the season's first cold wind slipped through the gaps in the carriage doors, like a reminder that the storm was approaching. Amara pulled her coat collar higher. Deep inside, a vague feeling was taking shape, a sense that this morning would be anything but ordinary. As Amara stepped out of the subway station in Midtown, the wind funneled between the tall buildings, hissing like swords slicing through the air. The fine drizzle had turned into a pounding hailstorm in just a few breaths, each icy pellet stinging her face like needles. She hurriedly opened the black folding umbrella, the one her mother had pressed into her hand that morning, but a fierce gust from the street corner snapped the frame backward, folding it up like the broken wings of a bird. Gritting her teeth, she collapsed it and pressed forward, splashing through rainwater streaming from the sidewalks into the gutter. Ahead, a glimmer of hope, the flickering yellow light of a taxi inching its way toward her. She raised her arm high, shouting over the wind, Taxi! Taxi! But just as her hand gripped the door handle, a figure lunged from behind, shoving her sharply to the side. Rain and mud splattered across the hem of her charcoal suit jacket. Amara looked up. It was the Italian-suited man from the subway. He met her eyes, his tone dry and icy. "Sorry, but I'm in more of a hurry than you." The taxi door slammed shut. The tires spun, flinging another arc of black water onto the very heels she had polished to perfection that morning. In that moment, Amara saw the stark divide in this city between those with power and those who must endure. She drew a deep breath, swallowing the lump of anger in her throat. "No, I won't let this ruin today." Amara kept running, but suddenly her left foot plunged into an unseen pothole hidden under the waterlogged street. She stumbled to her knees, her handbag flying open, her phone flipping into a frigid puddle. When she retrieved it, the screen flickered briefly before going black. No way to contact the company. No taxi. Hair soaked. The water almost certainly blurred the documents in her bag. Still, Amara forced herself toward the glass tower of Cross Kingsley, shimmering faintly through the curtain of hail in the distance. She didn't know that this string of mishaps was only the overture to the most significant test of her life. With less than 3 blocks to go, Amara was almost at the glass tower of Cross Kingsley. Though the hail still battered down in furious bursts, she pushed forward as if racing against fate. Every step felt heavier, her shoes waterlogged, her soaked suit clinging coldly to her skin. Then, a flash of red light blinked at the curb, catching her eye. A sleek charcoal Bentley, Manhattan's elite emblem, sat stranded in the streaming rainwater. Its rear right tire was completely flat, nearly peeling off the rim. Beside the car, an older man with silver hair, tall yet lean, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, was bent over, wrestling with a jack. Gusts of wind staggered him, and hailstones pelted his face relentlessly. His hands trembled, his feet slipped on the slick pavement, and the jack kept skidding out of place under the rain-slick grip. Passersby hurried past, deliberately avoiding eye contact, as if the sight was a blurred fragment in the winter storm. The blare of car horns and the drumming rain on the Bentley's body formed a chaotic symphony of the city's indifference. Amara froze. Ahead lay the Cross and Kingsley Tower, its lobby lights spilling warm and golden, like an unspoken invitation. But her mother's voice rose in her mind. Opportunities can come again, but once conscience is lost, it can never be found. Oh. She checked her watch. Less than 10 minutes to the interview. One step forward, she might still make it. One step to the left, and her one shot at a new life would almost certainly vanish. But Amara's feet had already chosen the second path. She strode toward the older man, bracing against the wind lashing her face, and knelt on the cold, wet concrete. "Sir, let me help. In weather like this, you can't do it alone." "Nine Fort." The older man looked up, his blue eyes revealing both surprise and exhaustion. His voice trembled slightly, yet carried the bearing of someone accustomed to command. You don't need to. You surely have something more important." "This is more important right now," Amara replied firmly. In that moment, she knew she had just walked away from the opportunity she had prepared for her entire life. And yet, deep in her chest, a slow-burning flame flared higher, the fire of staying true to what was right, no matter the cost. Hail pelted her face like thousands of needles, but Amara kept her grip on the jack, using her full weight to keep it from slipping from under the car. Her hands were numb to the point of losing all sensation, her fingernails splitting and bleeding as she wrenched at the cold, rusted lug nuts. The older man beside her tried to shield her with a small umbrella, but the wind had bent its frame, sending rain slanting in on both of them. In his gaze, weary, unsettled Amara caught something, a blend of helplessness and a more profound, quiet astonishment. Only minutes passed, though they felt like an hour, before the new tire was in place. Amara stood, breathless, clothes drenched, her once neat curls hanging in a tangled, dripping mess. She stooped to retrieve her bag and quickly checked it. The documents were smudged, the letters of recommendation blurred into gray streaks. Her chest tightened. The older man adjusted his tie, looking at her with an odd gratitude. "I'm Jonathan Cross, thank you, Amara. Not many people would stop in weather like this." The name made her pause. Cross, the same as the gleaming tower ahead. But before she could think more, she said, "You should get in the car before you catch a cold." "I have to go." Amara dashed through the flooded street, her heartbeat pounding. When she finally stepped into the bright lobby of Cross and Kingsley, a rush of warm air met her, yet it couldn't drive out the cold inside her as she glanced at her watch. Over 20 minutes late. Behind the reception desk, Victoria Hale, blonde hair in a tight bun, navy uniform, crisp and severe, looked up, her gaze sweeping from Amara's tangled hair, soaked suit, and mud-splattered heels to the smudged documents in her hand. Her voice was steady, without a trace of sympathy. "Miss Ellis, you're more than 20 minutes late. Per our policy, your interview is canceled. We do not accept explanations. Please leave." Each word felt like the blow of a hammer. Amara stood frozen momentarily, then gave a slight nod and turned toward the door. Outside, the rain still poured mercilessly, and she knew this was the beginning of the price she had chosen to pay. The apartment door closed behind her, shutting out Harlem's noise, leaving only the patter of rain on the old window frame. The dim yellow glow of the desk lamp fell across Amara's face, pale, curls plastered damply to her cheeks, eyes rimmed red from the cold and from a disappointment too heavy to swallow. She set her bag down, letting water drip onto the floor. The resume she pulled out was utterly ruined, the pages warped, ink smeared into illegible shadows. She lifted the letter of recommendation from her former university professor, trying to blot it dry, but each touch bled the ink further. When she laid it on the table, it was nothing but a meaningless sheet of paper. Amara sat on the edge of the bed, her hands cradling her head. In the darkness, Victoria Hale's voice still echoed in her mind, cold, decisive, giving her no chance to explain. Images from the morning spun in her thoughts. The older man by the Bentley, her trembling hands twisting the frozen lug nuts, the taxi wrenched away, and the glass tower, looming, its doors closed firmly against her. Her phone buzzed her mother's number. She took a deep breath and answered. "Sweetheart, how was the interview? Did it go well?" Her mother's voice warm, though tinged with anticipation. Amara swallowed hard, forcing her tone light. "It was fine, Mom. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me. There was a lot of hail today, and I got completely soaked. I know you did well. Get some rest, okay?" Her mother replied, reassured for now. Amara set the phone on the table when the call ended, leaned back against the wall, and stared into the dark beyond the window. In her mind, the question gnawed. If I had walked past that old man, would I be sitting in the interview room right now? The answer would never be certain. But one thing she knew for sure, she had followed her conscience. And sometimes, the price of conscience was watching a dream be swept away. All that night, the rain and wind outside blended with the ticking clock, marking each second of a wound quietly deepening in her heart. The pale gray light of the next morning filtered through the thin curtain, spilling into the small room. Amara still sat with her head resting against the wall, her suit draped carelessly over a chair, never returned to its hanger. She had only managed a few brief moments of sleep, and each time she awoke, the hollow ache returned, reminding her of the door that had closed the day before. The sharp, unfamiliar ring of her phone cut through the silence. The screen displayed an unknown Manhattan number. Her heartbeat quickened unnaturally. She hesitated for a moment, then picked up. Amara Ellis speaking. A calm, professional female voice came through. "Good morning, Miss Ellis. This is Natalie Grant, Executive Assistant to Mr. Jonathan Cross. He would like to invite you for a private meeting at 2 p.m. today, in his office on the 88th floor of Cross and Kingsley." Amara's breath caught for a few seconds. The name Jonathan Cross instantly pulled up the image of the silver-haired man struggling in the hailstorm yesterday. It was him. She steadied her voice. Of course, I'd be honored. Could you share more details?" Natalie's tone remained gentle, yet decisive. "Mr. Cross says this is an important meeting, and he hopes you'll attend. I'll send the details to your email immediately." When the call ended, Amara stood frozen, her pulse racing. The despair of last night began to melt away, replaced by a warmth spreading through her chest. She sprang to her feet, pulled the suit from the chair, and carefully washed and pressed every crease. A fresh set of documents lay neatly on the table, a silent declaration. "I'll walk through that door this time." In the small apartment, the midday light began to shine brighter, and Amara knew that at 2 p.m. today, her life would never be the same again. By midday, the winter sun broke through the gray clouds, casting a pale golden light over Manhattan, gentle yet strangely warm. Amara stood before the glass tower of Cross and Kingsley, no longer the drenched, shivering, and defeated woman of yesterday. Her charcoal suit was freshly pressed, her curls neatly pinned up, her black heels gleaming every detail radiating confidence and readiness. The revolving doors opened automatically. A wave of cool, conditioned air greeted her like a formal welcome. Victoria Hale was still in the same deep navy uniform at the reception desk, but today her expression and smile were entirely different. "Welcome back, Miss Ellis. Mr. Cross is expecting you. Here's your guest pass straight to the 88th floor." Amara gave a slight nod, accepting the pass, feeling its weight as though she were holding the value of this very opportunity in her hand. The polished steel elevator doors closed, sealing her from the lobby below. The numbers on the display climbed steadily: 45, 62, 88. When the doors opened, a wide hallway stretched out before her, its beige carpets soft underfoot, walls paneled in gleaming wood, and light reflecting off abstract paintings onto the marble floor. Everything spoke of quiet power, the kind that didn't need to shout to command. A woman in a black suit stepped forward at the far end, her smile professional yet warm. "Miss Ellis, I'm Natalie Grant. Mr. Cross has spoken a great deal about you. Please follow me." Amara's heels echoed steadily against the marble, in rhythm with her pounding heart. With every step closer to the large wooden door engraved with the CK logo, she felt it more clearly. Today, she wasn't here to beg for a chance, but to affirm her worth. Natalie opened the door, her voice low yet full of weight. "Mr. Cross, Miss Ellis has arrived." Inside, sunlight streamed through a panoramic window framing the Manhattan skyline. There stood Jonathan Cross, no longer the image of the rain-soaked man wrestling with a tire yesterday, but an imposing, confident CEO, his sharp eyes carrying the weight of someone who seemed to measure the entire world in a glance. Jonathan Cross turned as Amara entered. The light from the window behind him cast a long shadow across the floor, creating a scene that felt both commanding and almost cinematic. His face no longer bore the weariness of yesterday's hailstorm, but was clear, focused, and with a rare warmth glinting at the corner of his eyes. "Amara Ellis. At last we meet again, under a different sky," he said, his deep, steady voice carrying the weight of a necessary negotiation. Amara stepped forward, holding his gaze. "I still can't believe it. You're Jonathan Cross. And I thought I was helping a stranger." He smiled, faint but profound. "You did help a stranger when you could have walked away to protect your chance. Very few in New York would have done that. And that's exactly why I wanted to see you again." He gestured for her to sit. For a few seconds the room was silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. Then Jonathan leaned back slightly, beginning his story. "Many years ago, I was just a young man, no name, no connections, only a few changes of clothes and a bundle of dreams. I was rejected more times than I could count. If it hadn't been for the small shop owner who believed in me, there might never have been a Jonathan Cross today." His eyes locked onto hers, as though searching the depths of her thoughts. "Yesterday, when you chose to stop and help me, I saw something no resume, no matter how brilliant, could show integrity and courage. That's exactly what Cross and Kingsley needs in the people beside me." Amara felt her chest tighten, struck by both surprise and emotion. Before she could speak, Jonathan leaned forward, his tone decisive. "I don't want to offer you the analyst position you applied for simply. Please become my special assistant. The work will be demanding, the pressure immense, but in return, it will open doors that most people spend a lifetime trying and failing to reach." The room fell into such silence that Amara could hear the pounding of her own heart. This offer was more than just a job. It was proof that all yesterday's losses had led her to a different threshold, far more significant than anything she had ever imagined. Amara sat silently for a few seconds, feeling as though the entire 88th floor office had drawn in around her. Every word Jonathan Cross had spoken still echoed in her mind, blending with the pounding rhythm of her heart. She took a deep breath, then met his gaze with bright, unwavering eyes. "I don't know if I deserve this, but I promise I'll give everything I have to live up to your trust." Jonathan smiled, stood, and came around the desk, resting a steady hand on her shoulder. "I'm not giving you this opportunity because you're ready, Amara. I'm giving it because I know you will be ready. From today, Welcome to Cross and Kingsley, and welcome to the real challenge of your life. Their handshake was firm, sealing an unspoken pact between two people from different worlds, bound by one shared principle: kindness without self-interest. Amara left the tower and stepped into a Manhattan bathed in a golden sunset. Fifth Avenue was crowded, but somehow felt warmer and friendlier. She called her mother as she turned the corner. "Mom, the old man I helped yesterday was Jonathan Cross, and I just accepted a job as his special assistant." On the other end, her mother's voice broke with emotion. "Daughter, I'm proud of you not just because you've succeeded, but because you've kept the heart I raised you with." Tears slipped down Amara's cheeks, but they were tears of relief. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, full of pressure, challenges, and new boundaries to cross. But today, she has proven that genuine opportunity is born from character and that kindness is never the wrong choice. That night, in her small Harlem apartment, Amara opened her worn notebook and wrote a single line: "Success is not only measured by what we achieve, but by how we achieve it." She closed the notebook and looked out the window. The city lights shimmered like thousands of brilliant stars, and for Amara, it was her new sky.